All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we have a doozy for you. We had the Twitter hearing on Capitol Hill, and boy, did some of these elected officials light into the old Twitter board. Yul Roth, that Lynn Glad lady. It was just wild. I mean, I cannot believe they grilled him so hard. The problem is, what's going to come from this? Usually nothing comes from all these hearings. A couple guys got real tough, said they were going to lock him up and ask them all these questions why they're censoring them or censoring other people. It was mainly the focus for the Hunter Biden laptop, which we now know is true because Hunter Biden has came out and said that he wants his laptop back and he wants to go after all these people. But knowing what's in that laptop, you can go to Marco Polo USA.org, I believe it is. I'll find it for you. But I mean, it has pretty much everything that's in that laptop, and it's disgusting. Of course, you've probably seen bits and pieces of the pictures posted online, and everybody's making fun of Hunter. Joe Biden's a crook. Everybody knows that. But what's really going to happen? So let's dive into a couple of things that went on today up on Capitol Hill. And it had me rolling. I mean, I was rolling. Hopefully the feds don't come knocking on my door. All right, folks, let's get into it. Let's get into the feed here. I have my Twitter pulled up. And, of course, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Rock and Roll Rebel. All ones. The L's have been banned from Twitter. So let's get into this real quick. Let's get into our first video of the evening. Let's get into this Nancy Mace. She got in real good. So let's go to her first because she was arguing good intellect. So let's go with her.
Bhattacharya is a professor of medicine at Stanford who once tweeted an article he wrote about natural immunity. Thanks to Elon Musk's release of the Twitter files, we learned some of his tweets were tagged with the label of Trends Blacklist. Apparently, the views of a Stanford doctor are disinformation to you people. I, along with many Americans, have long-term effects from COVID. Not only was I a long hauler, but I have effects from the vaccine. It wasn't the first shot, but it was the second shot that I now developed asthma that has never gone away since I had the second shot. I have tremors in my left hand, and I have the occasional heart pain that no doctor can explain, and I've had a battery of tests. I find it extremely alarming Twitter's unfettered censorship spread into medical fields and affected millions of Americans by suppressing expert opinions from doctors and censoring those who disagree with the CDC. I have great regrets about getting the shot because of the health issues that I now.
That's very true indeed. You're hearing it more and more. People are coming out, and it's sad that a lot of people got vaccinated thinking they were promising you one thing, like you would get the vaccine, you're not going to get COVID, you're going to be healthy, you're not going to die. And then months later, you find out all the vaccinated people are the most people dying. The vaccinated people are having heart problems, blood clots. So who knows what's really going on with that vaccine? Now, hopefully they get down to the bottom of it because they forced it on everybody, the CDC, Dr. Fauci. Let's go back into what she was saying. I think she did it real elegant, and it's great to hear someone that's really good at doing her job.
Now have that I don't think are ever going to go away. And I know that I'm not the only American who has those kinds of concerns. Another example of what Twitter has done to censor folks is from Dr. Martin Kulldorff, a Harvard-educated epidemiologist who once tweeted, "COVID vaccines are important for high-risk people and their caretakers. Those with prior natural infection do not need it, nor children." The Twitter files reveal this tweet was deemed false information because it ran contrary to the CDC. So my first question this morning of Ms. Gadde, may I ask of you, where did you go to medical school?
I did not go to medical school.
I'm sorry?
Of course she
I
did.
did not go to medical school.
That's what I thought. Why do you think you or anyone else at Twitter had the medical expertise to censor a doctor's expert opinion?
Little no.
Our policies regarding COVID were designed to protect individuals. We were seeing
You guys
She's
censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated doctors, doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silenced those voices. My next question is, did the U.S. government, oh, excuse me, I have another chart I want to show you, Ms. Gaddy. I have another tweet by someone with a following of a full 18,000 followers. This person
I'd like
put a
18,000
chart from the
followers.
CDC on Twitter. It's the CDC's own data, so it's accurate by your standards. And you all labeled this as misleading. You're not a doctor, right, Ms. Gaddy?
no, I'm not.
Okay. What makes you think you or anyone else of Twitter have the medical expertise to censor actual, accurate CDC data?
I'm not familiar with these particular situations.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not. But this is what Twitter did. They labeled this as inaccurate. It is the government's own data. It's ridiculous that we're even having to have this conversation today. It's not just about the laptop. This is about medical advice that expert doctors were trying to give Americans because social media companies like Twitter were silencing their voices. I have another question, my last one for you, Ms. Gaddy. Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to pressure Twitter to moderate or censor certain tweets? Yes or no?
We have a program.
Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to censor or moderate certain tweets? Yes or no?
We receive legal demands to remove content from the platform
From
from
who?
the U.S. government and governments all around the world. Those
From who?
are published on a third-party website, and anyone can review
Thank
them.
God for Matt Taibbi. Thank God for Elon Musk for allowing to show us in the world that Twitter was basically a subsidiary of the FBI, censoring real medical voices with real expertise that put real Americans' lives in danger because they didn't have that information. I also want to thank one of my colleagues, Ro Khanna, because as it turns out, censorship isn't just an important issue to conservatives. Some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, like Ro, found this censorship very concerning, and even wrote to you and to folks at Twitter that he was concerned about the First Amendment being censored. So I want to thank him for speaking up and speaking out about this issue, because this should not be a partisan issue. This should be an issue that's an American issue. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record. I ask unanimous consent.
Well, that's pretty much for her. She put the hammer down. Hopefully, things like I said are going to come from this meeting on hearings on Capitol Hill. I mean, they're out here just everything. Remember ivermectin, anything. It was the jab or nothing. Nothing worked unless you had the jab. All the other stuff didn't work. So let's get into some other videos here. My favorite was I don't know if she's Latino, that Luna, Anna Luna. It doesn't sound Latino. Can I find her? We got one of AOC. I don't even want to play AOC. I don't even know how the people of New York vote for her. Lauren Boebert, she's up there too. I want to find the Luna. And then I also want to leave off with the... Here we go. This is it right here. This is going to be a great one. Now, this lady right here, she'll have my vote all day. I will vote for her for president. You want somebody who's got common sense. You don't need to be bending knees, pandering to everybody. Everyone is equal in America. That's the way it was supposed to be. That's the way it's always been. Yeah, you want to go back 700 years? Go back 700 years. But today, in 2023, it's even. Let's see what she has to say. She is a brilliant lady. I'm going to pull up the video for
Mr.
us right now.
Have you communicated with government officials ever on a platform called Jira? Yes or no? Real quick answer. We're on the clock.
Not
Yes
to
or
the
no?
best of my recollection.
Not to your recollection? Great.
She lights up
if you
Yoel
did,
Roth.
in the
This
event,
guy's a
communicate,
weirdo,
who would have
too.
had access to this platform?
That's the nature of my confusion.
Okay.
Jira
Did
is
you ever speak to government officials on Jira regarding taking down social media posts?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
Can you explain to me why the federal government would ever have interest in communicating through JIRA, mind you, a private cloud server, with social media companies without oversight to censor American voices?
they were
I want to let
talking
you know that this
privately.
is a violation of the First Amendment, and the federal government is colluding with social media companies to censor Americans. Mr. Chairman, I ask for unanimous consent to submit these graphics into record. And Mr. Roth, I'm going to refresh your memory for you. This flow
Without
chart
objection,
behind
it's
me.
ordered.
Thank you, Chair. This flow chart shows the following federal agencies, social media companies, Twitter, leftist nonprofits, and organizations communicating regarding their version of misinformation using JIRA, a private cloud server. On this chart, I want to annotate that the Department of Homeland Security, which has the following
What's those
branches:
charts say?
Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency,
DHS.
also known as CISA, Countering Foreign Intelligence Task Force, now known as the Misinfo, Disinfo, and Malinformation, MDM. This was again used against the American people. The Election Partnership Institute, or Election Integrity Partnership, EIP, which includes the following: Stanford Internet Observatory, University of Washington Center for Informed Public, Graphica, and Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, and potentially, according to what we found on the final report by EIP, the DNC. The Center for Internet Security, CIS, a nonprofit funded by DHS, the National Association
Oh, whoops.
of
Sorry about that.
Secretaries of State, also known as NASS, and the National Association of State Election Directors, NASED. And in this case, because there are other social media companies involved, Twitter. What do all of these groups, though, have in common? And I'm going to, again, refresh your memory. They were all communicating on a private cloud server known as JIRA. Now, the screenshot behind me,
So they were
which is an
all
example of one
going
of
in together
thousands,
on-
shows on November 3rd, 2020, that you, Mr. Roth, a Twitter employee, were exchanging communications on JIRA, a private cloud server, with CISA, NASS, NASED, and Alex Stamos, who now works at Stanford and is a former security officer at Facebook, to remove a posting. Do you now remember communicating on a private cloud server to remove a posting?
Hell no.
Yes or no?
He's scared.
I wouldn't agree with the characterization.
I don't care if you
that
agree.
this-
This is your stuff. Yes or no? Did you communicate with a private entity,
Get him.
the government agency, on a private cloud server? Yes or no?
The question was if I
Yes or
communicated
no?
to
Yeah, I'm
remove-
on time. Yes or no?
Ma'am, I don't believe
What
I
a
can
clown
give you
he
a
is.
yes or no.
Well,
answer
I'm
to
going
that
to tell
question.
you right now that you did, and we have proof of it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is joint action between the federal government and a private company to censor and violate the First Amendment. This is also known, and I'm so glad that there's many attorneys on this panel, joint state actors. It's highly illegal. You are all engaged in this action, and I want you to know that you will be all held accountable.
Yes.
Miss Gaddy, are you still on CISA's Cybersecurity Advisory Council? Yes or no?
Yes, I am.
Okay. For those who have said that this is a pointless hearing, and I just want to let you guys all know, we found that Twitter was indeed communicating with the federal government to censor Americans. I'd like to remind you that this was all in place before January 6th. So to say that these mechanisms weren't in place and to make it about January 6th, I want to let you know that you guys were actually in control of all of the content, and clearly we have proof of that. Now, if you don't think that this is important to your constituents and the American people from those saying that this was a pointless hearing, I suggest you find other jobs. Chairman, I yield my time.
Woo! Straight fire. Straight fire. She handed them their butts, bro. Handed them their butts. Hopefully now what's going to happen? She just told you what they were doing. They were getting information from the U.S. government, from the FBI, supposedly. Who knows us? I think Dr. Fauci was contacting Twitter to take down stuff. So basically they were telling you, oh, no. You can't have this information. You can only have our information. And all their information was false and lies. So what are we going to do, people? What are we going to do? There is a big march, Rage Against the War Machine with Jimmy Dore. There are some other people. It's coming up, I believe, in the next week or so in Washington, D.C. Like I said, is the Rage Against the War Machine. That's going to be great. Hopefully that draws some attention. People got to wake up. You cannot have these people on Capitol Hill giving you lies, telling you to do this, forcing you to put this jab in your arm, forcing you can't have this information. Oh, that's a lie. This isn't a lie. Everything they said was the truth, was the lie. But I want to finish off with this other guy, this other congressman. Let's go here. Let's scan together. So you can see what I'm seeing. This was a plant. This was a Democrat plant. She wanted to come in and talk about Christy Teigen and January 6th peaceful protest that somehow the Antifa got into. This guy right here is a clown. I don't know why he's wearing a do-rag on his head or a bandana. None of that makes sense. I cannot find, where's the, he killed it. Yeah, this is another great one right here.
Key events in history. What I've learned from them is that social media played and continues to play a role in these events. And 2 years after January 6th, we still need to better understand the role that Twitter played in order to prevent it from happening again. So what do we need to understand? First, Twitter's leadership bent and broke their own.
Is this on her? Yeah, that was a plant
Or
video.
that
I don't know
kind
nothing
of
to do with no plant
responsibility.
videos.
The modern day public conversation should not be susceptible to the whims of any
She's
one
paid
individual.
opposition. Cannot mess with her. Let me see if I can't pull this up. Rep Donalds, yeah. The guy they were trying to make Speaker of the House. Over Kevin McCarthy. This guy killed it. Because he lit into some people. Here we go. Check this one out.
I wouldn't agree with the characterization of it as being at the behest of them. These tweets were reported, and Twitter independently evaluated them under its rules.
But the email is very clear. More to review from Biden team. The response 3 hours later at the bottom. Hold this up real quick so we can see.
Let him know.
The
Let him
request
know. You
at
gotta
the
let these
bottom it
people know.
says handled these. What does handled these mean?
My
Look at him
understanding is
squirm.
that these tweets contained non-consensual nude photos of Hunter Biden, and they were removed by the company under.
Hold on, real quick, Mr. Roth. How could you know so much about the content of these tweets? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, these are just web addresses. I don't know what's in these tweets. You have these things committed to memory that you know the content, but you don't know who you talk to at the Biden team? Do you know how many tweets were actually flagged and taken down at the behest of the Biden team?
I wouldn't agree with the characterization of it as being at the behest of them. These tweets were reported, and Twitter independently evaluated them under its rules.
But the email is very clear. More to review from Biden team. The response 3 hours later at the bottom. Hold this up real quick so we can see. The request at the bottom it says handled these. What does handled these mean?
That means they took care of him, right? He
My
won't say it.
understanding is that these tweets contained non-consensual nude photos of Hunter Biden, and they were removed by the company under.
Hold on, real quick, Mr. Roth. How could you know so much about the content of these tweets? I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
Boom.
these are just web addresses. I don't know what's in these tweets. You have these things committed to memory that you know the content, but you don't know who you talk to at the Biden team? Do you know how many tweets were actually flagged and taken down at the behest of the Biden team?
I wouldn't agree with the characterization of it as being at the behest of them. These tweets were reported, and Twitter independently evaluated them under its rules.
But the email is very clear. More
Very
to
clear,
review
crystal
from
clear.
Biden team. The response 3 hours later at the bottom. Hold this up real quick so we can see. The request at the bottom it says handled these. What does handled these mean?
My understanding is that these tweets contained non.
Oh my, that was the same. That was over and over. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't paying. Phone was ringing. I wasn't paying attention. Well, that's it, folks. I'm going to wrap this up. As you can see, Twitter, the old Twitter, is in trouble. Hopefully, they will lock these people up for violating the First Amendment. They need to find out who at the FBI was making these calls to censor all this material. We cannot put up with this, folks. We need to have freedom of speech or we have nothing at all. They're going to start just locking up people for stuff they don't like. Oh, we don't like you for having that red cat. We don't like you for having that brown dog. They're just going to start locking people up. You got to pay attention. You got to get out and vote. Make sure you get out and vote. Make sure you do like and subscribe. And if you can follow me on Twitter, that'd be greatly appreciated. And thank you so much for tuning in. Peace and love. And I am out of here.